So quick video, obviously that was the opening act, and there is a high likelihood of counter moves, countermeasures, counter strikes in the next 24 to 48 hours. Several videos I produced yesterday, just hours before we were in the air. In fact, I told you when we were in the air. How did I know? I just knew. By the way, remote viewing is a very real thing. And if you pray hard enough and strong enough and you quiet your mind, you can actually hear God. It tells us in the Bible, for example, that young men will have visions in the end times. And so I found that very interesting. Our mission, of course, has been revealed to the public now, at least what they want us to know. It was an 18-hour direct flight, 7 B-2s deployed from the East Coast. That's a really long flight. One way, 2 decoys, which I also predicted and said decoys were in the air, that Donald Trump had something up his sleeve, has also come to light. That was sent west ahead of the eastbound 7 B-2 bombers on their way to hit the 3 nuclear sites and facilities. It has now been announced and voted by the Iranian parliament to close the Strait of Hormuz. This has massive economic, geopolitical implications, and if that is the case and they follow through, Donald Trump will use, along with the US military, more extreme force, bigger than what you just saw. The closure of the strait accounts for a lot of the oil movement worldwide, would send oil prices sky high into a stagflationary, I would argue hyperinflationary collapse in the United States of America, and bring and enter the United States and its citizens not just into world war, but also a Great Depression 2.0. So it's that vital. It is like the heart of the world's oil supply. Over 20% again is distributed from that region in the Middle East. In addition to that, so Iran's probably mining it right now, setting up mines for ships. Very treacherous waters. Also accounts for about 30% of all NG natural gas movement. So that's another consideration as well. So look, when Donald Trump came on camera yesterday, he looked stark. He looked white in the face. He was strong and he was firm. And obviously the decision he made, man, no one would want to make that decision. But he also looked cold in the eyes. And he gave his warning. And that warning is, if you don't stand down from here, we're going to unleash, honestly, hell in this part of the world. I want to congratulate our amazing U.S. Air Force, our military, the personnel, and the Space Force that successfully completed the mission. As far as I know, as I also predicted, it was not just highly targeted, precise in and out, but in addition to that, our bombers were refueling in the air. By the way, they were pushing out high-frequency suppression weapons, something I'm an expert in front of the B-2s. And I posted that on X. If you're interested, I taught an entire course on this over a weekend, because when I first learned about it through declassified materials and read several thousand pages of it about 10 years ago, I built an entire coursework around it: electromagnetic frequency technologies, EMF, and of course EMPs, and also what to do when it happens. I went over Havana syndrome, and also the rod of God and the frequency tech that they push in front of our aircraft now, that brings down and scrambles telecommunications, satellites like Starlink, or the competition of America's enemies, and also can start fires. Hint, hint. So I encourage you to learn about that. Again, what people have said was conspiracy was actually the exact weaponry on display yesterday that I warned about with such fervent urgency a decade ago. I was a young man, I had a beard. I find it very frustrating too, because I reveal this truth and information so long in advance, most people overlook it. In fact, that video barely was watched. You know, all my other videos throwing chairs in the pool or freaking out or being really dramatic, those always go viral. But then the ones that are actually the most important, everyone overlooks it. Just like when I've been telling you about Bitcoin all these years. So it doesn't end here. This was the opening act. Notice Donald Trump did not present himself singularly singularly as the president yesterday. When he made his announcement, he brought Marco Rubio, he brought Hegseth with him, and J.D. Vance, who both looked concerned in the eyes as well, and did not include Tulsi Gabbard. Notice that. So the four men stood there showing military might, probably pre-recorded though, because the continuity of government, even though it was live to the public, they would never place the vice president and the president in the same location at one time, announcing strikes if they had not already rallied into various other locations and been running the doomsday plane, probably with either Trump or Vance, again, in separate areas and locations during DEFCON 1. For those of you that don't know what DEFCON 1 is, and we are at it now, we are either on the verge of nuclear war and or it will de-escalate, and as I've predicted, and I think it will de-escalate. This is what I told you, but I do believe that there's going to be repercussions. Homeland security risks, of course. I think you understand that. Strait of Hormuz closure. Before I even went to bed last night, I told you they'd close it. Boom, closed it. Told you there'd be decoys. We were in the air because I heard it from God. We were in the air. Isn't that crazy? The CIA, for example, studied remote viewing and has even found hostages in hostage situations and things like that from remote viewers, like what I witnessed and showed you. Again, young men will have visions from God during the end times, and I did. And by the way, I joke too on X. I'm like, I've got an apology thread if anyone wants to apologize for all the criticism, the cynicism. Because I understand I look like a crackpot sometimes when I make these predictions. I mean, you heard from God? Like, what are you talking about? I understand how Jesus must have felt and the disciples as they were evangelizing the Holy Gospel. And a lot of people, most just slammed the door in their face. I mean, did they not eventually hang Jesus Christ on the cross, for crying out loud? So I'm also hearing ridiculous commentary from influencers that are saying things like, we didn't attack Iran, we just attacked their nuclear facilities. That is an absolute ridiculous, unconscionable, stupid statement. That'd be like saying that Japan didn't attack the United States at Pearl Harbor because they only struck our fleet of naval vessels and aircraft carriers. I mean, come on, man, you can sell this BS all you want. You're at war. And notice the American people, although we vote for the president and we vote for the people in power, largely don't have any choice in the decision making. What you do have choice in is actually what you do in your day-to-day life, how you prep, how you pivot, leverage, profit, how you organize, the communities you form, your mindset, the things that you invest in, like Island Project and the Digital Noah's Ark, which, you know, was built for actually what happened yesterday and built for what's going to happen next. This is the entrance into the big geopolitical shift. Now, with that being said, I'm 100% confident, like I pre-warned weeks and months in advance, way ahead of June 14th, telling you the military parade was a warm-up, psychological programming and militarization for what Donald Trump wanted to show psychologically with the parade June 14th. Boom, Friday the 13th, Israel makes its first attack, as I predicted. And then yesterday on the 21st, boom, I tell you they're in the air. That's when our B-2s and our decoys were out. Boom, I tell you there were decoys. Boom, 10 years ago, I warned and told you and broke down as a true expert of the space of these high suppression weaponry technologies like EMF, electromagnetic spectrum and frequency technologies. Everything in the sky now, again, is a weapon, DOD, DARPA. And you know who's mute and absolutely quiet, proving my point? Elon Musk, who choreographed and staged his breakup, fake divorce with Donald Trump weeks before because he had already been debriefed on all this. And now the freedom of speech that he is so beholden on X has nothing to say about Iran. I want you to think about this. He's mentioned nothing about Iran, the nuclear sites being hit, World War III, and this is the most supposed controversial figure that always tells you what's going on. Mute. Silence. And in addition to that, the only thing he is saying is that he's introducing his robo-taxi service in Texas. LMAO. LMAO. All the elites have bunkers, do you? I actually sold nuclear fallout shelters over 10 years ago. Sold a lot of them. One of my good friends, he's a really smart man, Christian, really good guy, American patriot. Sold you good products, haven't I? Bug out bags, water, food, filtration systems, survival, gold, silver, Bitcoin. Bitcoin will quickly be bought up and display itself as a hedge and an amazing gold store of value equivalent, even more scarce than actual physical gold. And you will witness Bitcoin skyrocket to about 120, 135K imminently as the rest of the world and retail panics out along with Wall Street into a non-sovereign hedge. That's why Bitcoin was built. So it's a great opportunity right now. I told you there'd be volatility before the golden age is unlocked. So Donald Trump, it's like water shifting. Tidal wave comes in, it's got to shift back. What we're really worried about now is China and Iran, not just Iran, but China and Russia and their counter moves. And whether or not they will supply and or direct any kind of nuclear proliferation or weapons to Iran, and or will they scale up and amplify the war in Ukraine, and or a possible attack on Taiwan, which I've also warned you about and told you is going to happen. By the way, when that happens, you won't be able to get any kind of like cell phones, laptops, semiconductors, cars will be difficult to buy, all technologies, wearables, headsets, handsets, all the modern gadgets that we have. There's going to be a run on that. Prices will skyrocket, just like food and essentials prices are skyrocketing in Iran, just like all their banks are down. By the way, last night I had over dozens of reports, multiple of dozens reports from various sources, credibly, that various banks wouldn't allow Americans and some foreigners log in to their accounts. If their accounts were not working, or they couldn't log in, or they couldn't see their deposits. So if you've seen anything like that, please leave a comment, because you really are the best source of news and information in the world. And so I appreciate you sending in those tips via the comments. And then I've also, of course, following me here on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and also X. So just like in a great Shakespearean play or a symphony, that was the opening act. Now, what we're praying for is that the reverberation isn't too big. I do believe Donald Trump has worked and negotiated the art of the peace deal with Vladimir Putin and China, as long as they're not bluffing, and they agreed to it, but as long as they don't go behind his back. You understand? As long as they hold true to the handshake that was made. Donald Trump already made all those deals prior to his attack strike. I also knew he was going to attack unconsciously and psychologically, because he was wearing a massive red bull flag signal, bright red bull, fire truck red MAGA hat all day yesterday in the morning. And unconsciously, even psychologically, even if Donald Trump didn't know, war, just like a bull. Also, in the previous day, I noticed all these unconscious cues, because he had a yellow tie on, which signaled, trying to negotiate hope and peace, but he's working on it. And that was also a prelude, unconscious warning. Also, all of Donald Trump's kids went mute on Iran. Suddenly, about a week ago after Elon Musk's fallout, no one spoke, no one said a thing. There was no commentary from Don Jr. or anyone. That was another sign, and a very obvious sign for those of you paying attention, that they had already been debriefed of the strike, to shut up and not make any commentary for what we already knew was coming. Also, the two decoys, all of our top generals have run these simulations, actually, and there's more of them, by the way. You heard it here first, we're moving west on their way to Pearl Harbor. They're either still there or they're in the air now. Our generals, of course, run simulations, not just as decoys, but for counter moves and counterpoint moves of the counter move and counter strikes that may or may not happen as a result of China-Russia escalations, Strait of Hormuz, and or all of this has already been roadmapped. So understand, AI has helped our government with this as well. And they've already run all the simulations of next steps and how to play the symphony and move all those chess pieces. Again, they've already moved them 100 pieces ahead. Just the American people are just waking up to the reality now. Just like the lockdowns, that was all pre-planned too. It's all a part of what you see now. In fact, that was the real time to not comply and to peacefully protest and fight back peacefully. I hope you did, I did. I never complied, never do what I was told, and I marched in the streets with a giant megaphone and led rallies of hundreds of people calling for the peaceful removal of the politicians locking people in their homes and closing their businesses down. Now, I would argue it's too late. You see how the pendulum has now swung to the series of end-time biblical events, which are God's will, and now we're just moving in to that era. Shouldn't be a surprise. So the golden age is coming next, and markets will be extremely erratic and volatile. All the water, the financial movement will go into Bitcoin, tokenized real-world assets like here at the Digital Noah's Ark with no bank debt. Hey, it's pretty nice not having any bank debt, isn't it, right about now? How about them apples? You see that? This guy's smart over here. That's why I'm the president and my father's the vice president. My dad's a badass, but I just showed you why we built the portfolio that way. No bank debt. As the margin calls hit Wall Street, 401ks, retirement accounts collapse, money market funds go illiquid, banks close, capital controls are implemented, and the flight of capital and risk capital out of banks are halted through presidential executive force and action, as well as expatriation and travel, probably limited, in the not too distant future as a result of domestic issues and national security events. Wink, wink, wink. Isn't it nice to be a gangster with no bank debt? And the safest asset class in the world, diversified and already successfully built to $33.5 million, decentralized across multiple states and even bunkers like Park City, Deer Valley, Utah, because I already planned for this years in advance. Again, what's the use and knowledge of having this foresight if you don't take advantage of it to help the people you care about and love, and most importantly, the people I care about the most, my family, friends, and you tuning in, my beautiful members from 12 different nation states that are now safe in the best island project, Digital Noah's Ark, investment class ever that's been built, invented by our team in world history. The first to successfully fractionalize the best real estate, hyper appreciating asset class in the world that's ever been done. Just like Noah. Things will be developing rapidly. I also would recommend that you speak with family and friends and like minds. Another benefit of my organized community is that, speak to your family members before a potential EMP or the grid goes down or your cell phone goes out or there's some kind of electricity issue. Trust me, all this stuff is coming. Banks closing. Don't wait for your rallying points and plans until then. Speak with your family members. Think about exit strategies, rallying points, communication strategies. I learned this during the Maui fires because I was there for it. I was actually coming off a major hernia surgery, so I was very weak at the time, and my wife's like, hey, honey, you better wake up. I'm like, ah, crap. It was like Armageddon in front of us. And so I remember it well, but one of the take-home away lessons was that comms are extremely important. We were in darkness for 3 days. No communication. Government wasn't there to help. Police were nowhere to be found. No one knew what was going on. Absolute hysteria and panic and lockdowns. They even closed exit points. But the biggest thing for me, at least, and I'm a super prepper and always have been, I've even sold fallout nuclear bunker shelters for crying out loud, was the comms. Because the not knowing is almost worse. I didn't know if the entire United States, continental US had all been nuked, honestly. I planned for it. I had no idea. So again, don't be in fear. I actually do think, as I said before, and my predictions have come true and have been accurate now, as there is some reverberation and more strikes, will hopefully be limited in scope and damage, but very precise and effective. And now we are waiting for the regime change, hopefully peacefully, in Iran, and then for China and Russia to stand down. And as long as that happens, golden age is guaranteed, hyperinflationary collapse. Jerome Powell starts cutting rates like a hooker. Hyperinflation hits the United States. Bitcoin soars to millions of dollars over the next 5 years. Might take 5-10 years to get a million plus, then my goal of 3 million plus. 2 to 300K plus imminent short term. And it will enter the new epic in history framework. well ahead, leading into the cabal, Satan, devil worship end goal of 2030, which is humanity's absolute surveillance, control, and I have to be careful with the words, of course, biological integration with it, all being led by devices is what I can say, which, by the way, connect to the software in 2020 that are in your skies now that the government just admitted that they were using even last night. Energy suppression weapons, Space Force tech, EMFs. I reposted that old video. I might repost all of them, honestly, on X for free. So don't doubt. Just get prepared, folks. Get prepared. Listen to the Holy Spirit and pray. I do encourage you. Get an onboardislandproject.com. It's why I invented it. It's why I built it. It's why I put my father in charge. He's the most trustworthy, amazing, steadfast man that I know. He is one of the best investors in the world that I know, best in real estate in the world. And bottom line, he has integrity, which you can't find anywhere anymore. And he had a great son, and we're doing a great job leading the charge for all of you tuning in. So I encourage you to act before the reverberating events, which will go down within the next hours, days, weeks, and months. So use the time wisely. Just don't sit around and tune into the news. And I'll have very important updated content coming, but I just wanted to put this heartfelt message out, let you know I love you. I'm thankful for all of you. Choose faith and hope, freedom and liberty over fear or darkness, and low vibration. I don't know about you, man. I'm riding this tidal wave of the golden age along with all of you, and it's going to be dope. So I'm incredibly optimistic. Although these are trying, difficult times to be alive, and most are going to be absolutely blindsided by a total train derailment here in the United States, followed by the sequence of events I've already accurately and very specifically specified would take place next, with stunning accuracy and decades-long in advance roadmaps that have given you an ample, abundant amount of time to prepare, pivot, leverage, and profit in an extraordinary, only God could have done that way. So like and share, and I also want to bless all of you tuning in, and thank you for all the new followers, an extraordinary 108,000 new followers on X. To all glory to be God. And videos that have now exceeded 3, near 4 million views individually alone because of your sharing and your good work. Because you're awesome, and I'm just a dude on the internet that hears God. I love you all. Someday I'll grow my beard just like Noah. It'll be really down to my ass. It'll be cool, man. Get my little staff, you know.